Well, this has just been one of those weeks in my MPRC voyage. I'm sure a lot of you have had weeks like this as well. You start off with the best intentions, your car is just flying and everything is great, and then all of a sudden your car turns into this. Very disappointing to say the least. But where there is lemons, we always got to make lemonade. You know, that is what I like to push. So let's talk about what I learned this week, what I was trying to actually do, and what happened, just what happened. So let's do it. My name is Chad. This is the Dorky M40 RC channel, and we are going to make you faster and hopefully smarter today. So after a week's work of testing, you can kind of see where we ended up here. We ended up with a horrific crash that of course it did not get on video because it was so dark outside at the time, but we got some good licks on it. And the whole point of this week was to basically start breaking in and working on the actual Castle motor R1 ESC combination itself. And to put it short, I think we all know from just what we've seen online at Super Chips, everything else, this is a winning combination, especially when you have groups of people together sharing information. Really, really good. Love the Castle Mamba Monster X group. A lot of people are out there. If you're not on that Facebook group, there's definitely a lot of great information on there. So we'll talk about the whole car and what's up with it and stuff later in the video. Let's just start with where I was back earlier in the week. So the harder and faster we push our MPRC drag cars, the more problems that we are going to have. I rebuilt the diff and transmission on my car, thought everything was great after a spectacular hero pass the other night. Went out testing last night, couldn't even get the car to go 1 foot. All indications after blowing a couple spur gears, it looks like the R1 3-turn motor has lost its rotor. Luckily, we can fix that, and we have a very, very awesome short-term solution. All right, guys, so it's a beautiful day out here. Bad thing is, I literally have a race in about 4 hours. Put the Castle 1412 into the system last night. Do not have, I got one pinion gear, a 27, 5mm. More on the way, who knows when they'll get here. But we're gonna be working spur around pinion today because I got every spur gear that I need. So we're able to get that magical FDR number that I want to run somewhere around 7.2, 7.3. And we're gonna put a very soft tune just to start this thing up and see what's going on and what kind of data and speeds we can get right off the bat. So we got the Castle installed there, and of course I had to rebalance everything a little bit with a little bit of a bigger weight with the pinion and of course the motor. Added another strip of lights for nighttime. Brought the Corvette body with me. I've seen a lot of people at Super Chips still running the Corvette body. Mine could definitely use a trim job compared to the Mach 22, but we'll start off on the Mach 22, and when we start maybe doing some changes with tires, trying different compounds, all that kind of stuff, maybe we'll also try a body switch. But that's not gonna be until later tonight. First thing we gotta do is just make sure that this baby can get down this road right here, which it looks like somebody was really getting down the road down there earlier. So we're all heated up, getting ready for first pass. Certainly not a bad start for right off the trailer. Man, gotta love the Castle power. Let's take a look at some logs. It definitely was a little sluggish out of the hole, which isn't too bad. Got a little bit wild there, as you can see. So that might have been like a wheelie bar issue. Not sure if I want to touch my wheelie bar because I just haven't seemed to have had a problem at the place we're racing at Sam's. But maybe we can raise it up just a little bit. We'll see what the log it says. Pretty dang rough down there at the end of the track, but you can see we're chipping away there. 209 at 73. Boy, I will take that for the second run on this R1 Castle system. Now, along with everything else braking and stuff, pushing our cars as hard as we are possibly pushing them, you definitely want to take your time in between pits and races and everything, and go over your car. Check your motor screws, check your pinion, check your mesh. You don't necessarily need to adjust it unless you think you need to. Check your wheelie bar height, have things like gauges and all that kind of stuff. Screws, loose screws, anything like that, wheel nuts, that kind of stuff can just ruin your day. So always make sure your wheels are pretty tight. If your shocks are kind of up on a stand like mine when we're using the shorter shocks now, you know, make sure that they're sitting and resting inside the cups, you know, all the way around. Check your body mounts. You can see that one of my body mounts up here is kind of loose. You know, that kind of stuff is just going to vibrate and resonate when you're approaching 80 miles per hour. So it's very important to make sure that everything is secure on the car. That 5 minutes that you could spend going over your car could save you hundreds of dollars and also just make your day way easier and make it faster too. So a couple of those passes definitely were wild, and there was just tons of road to work with. So I really wasn't that concerned about it. Well, I got to Sam's that night, and out of the 12 to 14 passes that we made throughout the hours, it was Sunday night before Memorial Day. So we had a real nice event. Had some boys come up from Columbus. Shout out to you 614 boys, Ronnie and the crew. And, you know, your boy Dorky and 40 here didn't even make a single pass. I didn't even get a pass on the timing system. The car was all over the place. Like, I just didn't know what was going on. I found like a tire up front that had a glue coming off of it. Thought that was the problem. Nope, that wasn't it. Constantly was checking all of my toe and camber, caster, all that stuff, and nothing was checking out. So fast forward to the next morning, I am like heavily involved in this car and taking a look at it. And I could show you exactly what was going on with the car, but it's in pieces behind me. So let me demonstrate to you on my buggy exactly what was going on, because it's the same exact setup. Show you what you want your stuff to look like and what you don't want it to look like. All right, so we know that we have been doing a ton of work to the Breakout car this year. And it's just been it's taken everything that I've done to it, transmission riser, all that kind of stuff. When I changed the diff though, something in this car just changed. It's like it woke up. The old diff was so loose and blown out. There was an O-ring missing on one of the out drives. You could easily spin it. It just wasn't getting any diff action. So getting a diff that actually was working combined with the transmission riser that I installed was actually, once the diff started working properly, the tires were working so hard in the rear. What I found out was that I was actually getting positive camber as it would be going down the road versus negative type of camber or less positive. So if we take a look at the buggy here, and you know, you're looking at the exact same rear end, and if you watch the tires, when you push the buggy down, so like when you're taking off, everything is supposed to it's supposed to camber in together. So, you know, you might have these set at 1 or 2 or maybe 0, but you want that to actually go in to that direction. And you see the wheels actually do that. If you look real close, you'll see the wheels squeeze together. Well, what was going on with my situation was I did not have the actual turnbuckles and camber links like properly spaced, and I'll show you what I had to do to remedy that. But what would happen is when my car was squatting, you know, you take a look at the actual squat here, you can see that you still have all of this contact patch going on here. But if you went the opposite way, you know, you can't even bend it that way, you're going to be getting a way less of a tire, and you are going to be getting super imbalanced and slippery on that car. And that is exactly what was going on with my car, because after we made this adjustments and I figured that out, the next night I'll show you a couple runs that I licked before I destroyed the actual car. But that was a big thing. Now, I think I still had a few other issues, but I reset everything up, rebalanced everything, all that kind of stuff. I think maybe I was getting a little too aggressive with the power the other night. We'll talk about the hero hit I tried to do and turned into a 0. But let's bring the crashed buggy up here and I'll show you exactly how we addressed this issue that you do not want to have. So this side here is actually still intact, but you can kind of see what was going on. So typically what we would do is we would have our ball stud spacers here and we would have the no spacing here in the hub. So that basically gives us, you know, that nice motion that we were looking for. But that was not working. It just wasn't working because of the actual transmission riser. So what I needed to do was actually bring the wheels up to match that of the transmission. So we've already brought the transmission up. So then if you space this actual link right here, you're really not doing yourself any good. Even though like you take the wheel, like, you know, it kind of, you know, doesn't make sense to me because this is as heavy as I'm getting into RC and I'm really studying all this kind of stuff, like deeply, really deeply. Subscribe to the Invisible Speed course from JQ, the MILWAUKEE guy, and just have been trying to study all that stuff and try to apply it to this and to the off-road buggy stuff as well. But you know, basically since we brought the transmission up and we didn't bring the actual wheel hubs up with it, it was giving us this angle that was pushing out against the top of the wheel. No matter what, like if I had those set to like, you know, 1 or 2 degrees negative, so that way hopefully when I was going down the road I wouldn't go that much further into like the positive category. But basically I was going from like a -1.5 on the actual camber to about a 3 or a 4. It was a huge swing. No wonder why the car was going like super crazy. And how we fixed that was basically just you can shorten your links, you can do all kinds of different things, but the easiest way to do it was just to remove the ball stud spacers here that are typically in the back of the transmission. So we just have ball stud going right into the mount. And then I just added inside the hub here, you know, there's the ball stud spacing that is inside of there. We basically, you can see it in there, just increase that, you know, by a lot. So we've got 4 millimeters of spacing inside there, and that seems to work out good. And I mean, it's very deceiving when you look at it because, you know, you always want like these things to kind of be as in parallel as possible, you know, your arms, your drive shafts, all that kind of stuff. But it really seems like for me, the most important thing is just the actual angle of the arm. And the drive, the dog bone really doesn't matter as much as long as you're not binding or anything, because it's just spinning. It really doesn't care. You know, you need this proper geometry there. So if you see on this side now, when I squat, you can see that it actually is either going straight up or it's coming in versus the opposite where the top of the wheel was going out, basically making us ride on our wheels. So that was a bad deal. That explained a lot. And we went out the next night and we started doing some more testing and things went great. We had the 209 at 80 miles per hour right there. 209 at 78, 219 at 75. So we were putting good consistent licks down the road. I did still have to make a little bit of tweaks trying to control the torque and the power curve on the castle. So, you know, turning this, if the car's going hard left, you know, turning a little bit on the actual, you know, left rear shock, trying to get it to push harder on the left so it pushes itself to the right. I know that's a confusing thing for some people. They think if the car goes left, you have to actually turn on the right shock. And that's wrong. That means that your right side is driving it to the left. So you need to tighten down and push it back away. And you spend all your time scaling your car out and all that stuff like that. And you assume that this stuff is just going to work perfectly when you get out to the track because every corner is balanced and your side to side is great and you're super happy with everything. But it really just doesn't work like that in reality. you know, you got to fight different things like crowns in the road and how uneven it is or whatever. But we're talking like a smooth, swept Sam's parking lot. Like, it's great. So if you ever want to tune a car, like, that is how you do it right there. It's as close as you're going to get to being like on a real track, I guess. So I made those adjustments and everything was going good. I'll show you a couple examples right here. So where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with this mess. Found the GNSS, everything, thank God. The battery ejected and broke the battery plate here and bent the standoffs that was holding it. Of course, you can see we've got a broken rear shock tower, totally bent axle back here. The thing's almost bent at 90 degrees, snapped off inside the off the hub, and we've got a broken front shock tower. Kind of crazy how the car actually hit. I mean, we're talking 0 to 65, and I think what happened is that on that hit, I had maybe about you know, I'm only trying to run around 40 degrees of timing right now. I know you can go a little bit more with the Castle and the R1 setup. I think I was running at like 20 like 2020 or like 2218, something like that. But what I did was I usually run, I don't know if it's the right way to do this, but a lot of people I think are doing this, is like, you know, you measure out what it takes to get you to 100%. And then, so if it takes you a second to get to 100%, then to just keep on pulling throughout the entire run, you can actually move your slope time for your turbo timing all the way up to like 1 second. So that way it applies it the entire time. Maybe you can knock it down to like 0.9, 0.8, whatever the car and the road will actually hold. So I did that. I think I brought it down to like 0.8, but the other thing I did was I typically have no turbo delay. So it just constantly is trying to ramp from the beginning to the end of the run. And that time what I did was, well, let's see what happens if I put a little bit of delay in there. You know, I don't really know why I did, because running this setup, the freaking gearing and everything is just so smooth with these like with these big pinions and small spurs, that, like, you know, the battery voltage and stuff is just totally insignificant. Like, I mean, I see the lowest voltage maybe at like a 6.8, and I'm just being an idiot at that time, maybe throwing 50 degrees into it, you know, for no absolute reason at all. So what happened was, I think that the car really shot out of the hole really good. It got out, you know, to like 50, 60 feet, whatever, half track. And then there was that little delay. And then I think, like, when that timing came in, that is what happened, because it really just cut loose and it just slid and darted and just smacked right into like a huge, like, you know, curb island thing that's in the Sam's parking lot. And it was loud, man. It was the hardest wreck that I've ever had. I'm pretty surprised that I didn't break more on the car. So another thumbs up to the durability of like the 5-star chassis and stuff. If I had the 4mm old school shock towers on here, probably wouldn't have even broke anything besides the bumper. But all that stuff's trashed, and I think everything else is going to be good. We'll see exactly what happens, but we're going to be making some big changes to the car, real big changes. So we're going to be going to like the touring stock setup. So, you know, we're getting away from this buggy stuff. I thought for a second there about maybe trying an Apollo kit or something like that, but just not ready to commit to that, because I have so many parts and spares and everything for this. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not like buying that car is all of a sudden going to make you, like, you know, invincibly faster. The only thing it does is, you know, buddy of mine runs pretty much the same setup, and we could work together to try to push each other's and tunes and chassis setup. And that would definitely be beneficial, because that's just really how you learn and grow. We all have heard that from the R1 and the Castle team and the GFRP team. They're obviously doing something right. So we're going with, you know, the complete short stuff on the shock towers and everything like that. And then we'll be switching to the 50mm touring shocks package that 5-star has, which should be what is coming on their strip package that they have coming out one of these days. Not sure when, but Kyle was just super amazing and super helpful on the phone today. Looks like I will need to do a little bit of different transmission spacing since everything else is dropping down. So we got a lot lot of really great stuff that's going to be happening. All in all, this could have been a way more expensive crash, and I saw a lot more expensive stuff go this weekend. I saw motors, ESC, tires blowing left and right. Like, you really got to stay, you know, including myself, like balancing tires. When you start approaching and you're running consistently in the lower to mid 70s and you start working your way up, man, you got to like freaking really start taking care of these cars, like keeping them clean, checking your bearings, your screws, all that stuff. Like, everything becomes like monumentally important. And, you know, if not, like, disaster can strike just like that. You know, one tune change at a time. Don't do something silly like I did, like, which was like, oh, let's try to take all of this timing and squeeze it in way shorter of a period. Because really what I did was I chopped off a second at the beginning, and I chopped off 0.1 seconds and chopped off 0.2 at the end. So instead of trying to put everything in a second, I was trying to put more in 0.7 seconds. So no wonder why the whole thing just like flew apart, and it looks like it does now. So broken battery tray and all this fun stuff. But all in all, I'm pretty happy. Everything is good. You know, honestly, I had everything I could do to just kind of like get it up and going right now, I think, except for a set of rear hubs on the associated side. But I just decided, you know what, if we're going to go through and change all this, then let's just get rid of this buggy stuff and let's go like to the next level, because that pretty much is where everybody is going, is to like minimum movement, everything else, you know, purpose-built chassis, all that kind of stuff. So this will get us one step further to that, and still on an amazing platform, you know, because I've seen other chassis crash way less harder than this and snap and break in half and everything else. And I have just a little bit of slight delamination up here on this front corner, but I don't see any other cracks in the chassis at all. Luckily, I think this design that they have here with like your front bumper, this mid plate, and then this kick plate, I think a lot of that stuff, you know, kept the damage from coming back into the chassis. So you can see right there where it's just a little bit delaminated. So I will sand that down a little bit and just go ahead and fill that with some super thin CA and maybe a little bit of baking soda, and then we will be good. You know, nothing is bent as far as the actual kick up, standoffs, the servo, everything's good. Everything still works. Boy, this poor dog bone. Oh my gosh. So the motor, the ESC, all that kind of stuff, super important. And I won't have to tear my buggy apart for the 10th time and steal parts of it. I'll actually have excess buggy parts now for a change, which is great, because I think I'm going to be heading back out there in a couple weeks, because they skipped it was not buggy week this week because of the holidays. So now we got to wait another 2 weeks for me to go out there. Nowhere to go but up for this guy. I am the slowest buggy racer out there. I don't know if I need a better pair of glasses or what, but man, I am not good at all. So thanks for stopping by on this video, guys. Hope we were able to teach you something today and entertain you. Thank you very much for all of your support. Rest in peace, Mike. Thank you for the community for being just so respectful to everybody this week. It was just fantastic. Hopefully we can all continue to build like that. So keep loving each other. Peace.